All About Reading is my absolute favorite reading curriculum, and I've been using it since my oldest was in kindergarten, so 4 years ago. Now my second grader is getting ready to move on to level 4, so I figured it's time for me to give you an in-depth review of All About Reading levels 3 and 4. Also, they have a brand new app that I want to share with you that will make All About Reading even easier to use. For an in-depth review of levels 1 and 2, I will leave a link in the description and you can check that out because I've already made one for that. So in this video, we're only focusing on levels 3 and 4. First, let's take a quick look at all the different components of All About Reading. Now, all of these components are the same throughout each level. So once you figure it out, each level is just going to build upon itself. Each level is going to come with a teacher's manual, student activity books, readers, word cards, and letter tiles. I did want to note real quick that if you are looking at all the stuff that I just showed you and you're like, wow, that's a lot of pieces, I understand. It seems intimidating, but once you understand how each piece plays a role, it's not as scary and it does become very routine and you can get the hang of it. Also, I don't use every single piece of this to the way that the teacher's manual suggests. So that is something to keep in mind, that you can cut a few things out here and there to make it best fit with your family. Now, the first thing I want to talk about are the letter tiles. This is a big component of All About Reading and can sometimes be a little intimidating to some people because they do have, they come separate and then you have to put the little magnets on the back and then you have to have somewhere to store these. Now, this current board that I have, the top section here is for my level 1 kiddo. And then down here are all the level 3 sounds. If this was to be a true level 3 board as intended by All About Reading, I would have 2 of every single letter up here along with all of these, and they would all be spread out and to have plenty of space to build words. Like right now we just build a couple words right here with my level 1 kiddo. But this has been, because there are so many sounds and tiles for level 3 and 4 that you have to add in here, I've started going away from the tiles a little bit, but I want to show you something. All About Reading has recently come out with a letter tiles app. So this basically replaces the actual physical letter tiles on, like I use it with an iPad and I'll even put it screen sharing onto my TV if I was to have multiple kids, so you could just move it all around here and let them see it up on the TV. Now, this app can be used with All About Reading and their other program, All About Spelling, and then you get to pick right up at the top like which level you want to start out with and which lesson. So I've chosen level 3, lesson 18, and then you can see that all of the different letters and sound tiles that you would need are all right there, easy for you to use. So then when you're ready to make a word, you can make, let's do an O-W, cow, and then B-O-Y. Okay, and then you have your letter right up at the top. When you're ready to take a letter and make it go away, you can do that. And again, just makes it really, really simple for you not to have to worry about storing, and even putting these together can be take a lot of time. So the Letter Tiles app is not free. It is $20 in whatever app store you're using. But if you look at the cost, I think the tiles themselves cost around like $11 or $12, plus all the time that you have to put into actually putting all the magnets on the back, and then they come on a sheet and you have to tear them out and punch them out. So if you are brand new to All About Reading and this looks like too many pieces, or the reason I put these onto a small board is because I can take them and put them up on a shelf so that when my youngest was even younger, he wasn't going and grabbing all of my letter tiles off of the whiteboard. So if you also have little ones, again, this might be the perfect solution. So even though the app is more expensive than the letter tiles themselves, you're spending so much less time and headache trying to keep these organized and put them where they are, and you don't have to worry about losing one. So I am moving on to the app for even my level 1 kiddo, and this is going to be super great. Next, I want to show you the word cards, and you can get a word card box, but in here you can see that this is level 3 and back here is level 1. So It is nice that if you do have more than one kid going through the program, you can keep those separate, and I just have a little divider in here. And so the different sections have phonogram review, phonogram mastered, so anything back here your child has mastered, and then phonogram future lessons. So it goes through all the different sounds, UR, OA, and then on the back it gives you, so this is UR, but the sound is as in nurse. And so then it gives you a keyword sample. So I like that. And then also right up at the top, it's really nice, is it will tell you what lesson it goes with and what the card number is. So if they get all jumbled or mixed up, you can easily just put them right back where they belong. And the same is true with the word cards. So again, here's the level 3 word cards. These are some of the words. These are some of the review cards my son's working on right now. Silently, whitest, church, broom, different sorts of words in there. And those are his review and then his mastered. And I'm trying to find one. So they do, this is from the level 1, but they have this little symbol of a frog, and these are called their leap words. So if there is a lesson where they want to introduce a new word like no, this is not nah, which is how the child at that point had learned to sound this word out. But so they're trying to get them to say, hey, we have not learned the proper way to pronounce this yet. And it doesn't follow the current phonics rules, so we're gonna put it under a sight word and say no. So my kids really enjoy using these because it's kind of like flashcard fun, right? And I use it right at the beginning of the lesson, but not every lesson. It does recommend using it almost at every lesson, and I just found that to be a little too much, especially with all the extra reading practice in the lessons and the readers and everything, which I'll show you in a minute. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the level 3 teacher's manual. Okay, so here we have the level 3 teacher's manual. And so if we open it up to the table of contents, you can see there's a little bit of review, and then it just starts going into all of the different sounds that your child will start learning. And then it goes all the way into some prefixes, the sound EW, WR, TI, EA as in great, and moves all on. And then at the end, it has kind of appendix for you to be able to find certain tools. So here it has like the scope and sequence, along with ways to spell long vowel sounds, and kind of to help you as the parent understand how to use the curriculum. Next, you're going to need to know what you need for this curriculum, all of the components that we kind of talked about earlier, the student pack. This is a whole kit, but you don't need the whole thing. Readers, the common craft materials for some of the various activities, and the magnetic whiteboard or the app, and then a globe or world map for some of the activities. Then it gives kind of an overview on what you should know. And then, is this right for your student? Again, they have these in the books, but you can also go online to be able to see the placement tests that they have online. So definitely check those out before you buy this. Hopefully you already know this is the right level before you buy this for your child. Taking a look at the teaching manual, which we'll look at in a second, and the activity book. And so it just gives you all of the instructions. And here's that kind of sample of what your magnetic whiteboard would look like at the end. So again, this is like a ton of space, and I just did not have enough space to put that all out. So we are super excited about the app. Okay, so then let's kind of take a quick look at one of the lessons. Let's skip past the review because it's going to be slightly set up differently. Okay, so here in lesson 2, you're going to learn 2 new sounds, and the very beginning, this is to tell you what's coming up so that you know how to teach the lesson. Again, some more information for you, and then you start going into the review. It suggests that you do the phonogram cards and then any new teaching. And again, this is so great because it's practically scripted. You know, you write AY says A. When we practice this card, it goes through and tells you exactly what you need to say to teach your child, and even how to blend sounds and go, step by step through the whole process. Then there's a little change the word game that you play with the letter tiles where you're switching, if this is gain and you change the G to a P, now you have pain. And then it tells you all the different words that you're going to be able to go through with that. Some more blending sounds, some more new teaching with AY. And then there is an activity sheet, which I'll show you that in just a minute with the other book, but it does give you a picture of what that looks like. And then there's a syllable division rule. So if you have two vowels, you split it. So this is d-I-et, diet. So that's actually a big part of the All About Reading curriculum, is learning how to break words into syllables and where to break them to create the correct word. All right, more new teaching. So this actually is a pretty long lesson. And then they have practice reading some new words, and these are going to be in those cards. And then there's some of those leap words in here, more leap words. And then there's a practice fluency, which I'll also show you in the student workbook in a minute. And then it has, for some older learners, and then you can mark your progress chart. And then typically it kind of goes in the pattern where there's a big lesson and then there's like a story. So I don't typically do all of the extra new teachings and anything in here because I wasn't really using All About Reading for the comprehension and vocabulary and whatnot. We kind of just go over that as we read. So I typically do whatever the original lesson is, so like lesson 2, and then I just hop over and we read the story. One thing to note here is that these lessons are not intended to be one sit down. Like you saw how long this first lesson 2 was. You can break that up. And so you don't have to do it all at one time. And then even the stories, as we've been getting through farther into level 3, they're getting longer. So I'll break it up. We'll read half the story one day and then half the story the next. So let's hop over into the activity book and I'll show you what goes along with these 2 lessons. Okay, so here's the student activity book. And it is in color. I think that's the only way you can buy it. So basically just a little hello and then a read aloud record if you want to use that. I haven't. And then each activity. So I love at the top it says lesson 1 under the sea. So you know that this is going to be used in lesson 1 and then lesson 1 again. You can add in your own words. And then these are really fun because you can have these written down. I think the reason I still have this in here is because I did a copy of it and just stuck it in a binder so that they know you start learning, which you can see the most common ways of silent E, but they need to start realizing that silent E does a lot of things in reading, not just making the vowel say its name. So again, some more just tools. And then lesson 2. So this is that lesson that we saw in the other lesson 2, and it said, here's that activity. I honestly don't do the activities that often. And actually, here's the page, of course, that's missing that I do. So let me pop way in the back to kind of show you what that page would look like in a different lesson. So here they are. So this is the practice sheet. So this is for lesson 51. We're not here yet. So after you do your lesson and maybe your activity, if you want to do an activity sheet, then there's always new words, and then they jump into some sentences and even more sentences. And then for here, this is going to be for that story that I was telling you about. So how I just read the story. There is a warm-up sheet for each story. So some words taught in previous lessons, new decodable words, some phrases, any names that might come up in the story that you want to practice with your child beforehand. And then that's it for that. So those are the 2 sheets that I do the most in here. I don't really do all these cutting out or anything like that. I guess you can see there, that's missing. Because we've done that one. But just to give you an idea of, some of the activities here, you're gonna, they can read the back, and I believe they probably have to put this in order of however they read the story, kind of what comes next. So that's how this is a comprehensive curriculum, is when you use some of these other activities, it's not just phonics, it's also bringing in those other elements of literature. Okay, so here is the volume 1 reader. And the table of contents shows you all of the stories and what page they're on. So very simple. And then it gives you the title page, and then you jump straight into the reading. So here's kind of the first activity that you would read after lesson 2. that end, and then you move on. So again, lots of different stories in here that keep your kids entertained. As you start moving farther back, they start getting a little bit longer, so feel free to separate those out into multiple days. And then there's also volume 2, so there's 2 volumes for level 3. So level 4 works just the same way that level 3 does. So let's hop into the table of contents. So here you're going to start working with words with 2 suffixes, EAR, UI, and IE, and all of the different sounds going all the way to Italian influences, French influences, Greek influences, to teach all the different words that your child's going to need to know. So again, it tells you what you need, what you should know about the program, which we talked about, and then is your student right for this level? Again, hopefully you already know because you can check that out on their website. And you just preview everything. Let's go ahead and hop to the first lesson. Okay, so again, the first lesson is review. So I'm just gonna skip over that one real quick because it's all very similar. It's a longer lesson. So lesson 2 is the multisyllabic words. And then again, you read this section to make sure you understand it. Then it wants you to do the phonogram cards. And then you move into practice decoding again. So you should have a pretty big board now with all the syllables learned in levels 1, all of the tiles learned in level 1, 2, and 3. So you're really getting into some long words. So again, this can get very time consuming having to use that whiteboard. But if you use the app, it should be pretty simple. Then it goes into completing an activity sheet, some practice words, even more new teaching with the fluency in the activity book, which I'll show you in just a minute. And then you mark your progress chart. And just like in level 3, after you do kind of a more sit down lesson, then there's always going to be a story. Typically the story is next. Typically goes kind of lesson, story, lesson, story. And then, you know, you could do all of your review, your phonogram, your word cards, some extra activities, the warm-up sheet, and then some extra activities like vocabulary, and then you read the stories. Like I said, I typically, for this part, skip all the extra stuff and just go straight to the story after we've done the lesson. So now let's hop over to the activity book. So this is the activity book, and I have not even opened it yet, but I did want to show kind of what the kit looks like if you get one of the student packs. So here's the level 4 student pack. It comes with all the cards you need. So I have left it this way because I just didn't want to lose the cards with all the other stuff that I have. And then it has the activity book. So let me open this up and then we will take a look inside. Okay, so I just want to show you what those word cards look like right out of the pack. So you do have to, you know, fold and tear all of these to make them fit into that box, which takes a little bit of time, but not too much. Also in the student pack is the new letter tiles you're going to need and any syllable tags and some extra magnets. So now we have the activity book here, and then I did want to show you, so here is that progress chart, and that's what the stickers are for, is once they complete it, they can put the stickers along, and so there are 63 lessons, so what they can kind of keep track of the lessons as they get through it, and that can help them stay motivated if they find that interesting. So that was that part. Let's see, there's a read aloud record again. And then it just jumps straight into it. Again, everything's in here because I have not used this. So here's for lesson 1 that you can see another activities with some review. And again, those same things that we saw in lesson 3, but just so that you have this. If you find that you want to start all about reading and your child's at level 4, you'll be able to have access to this. So jobs of silent E, the syllable division rules, and then we jump into the lesson 2 activity. And there's a couple different pages here. Another lesson 2 activity. And then it jumps straight into the practice sheet for the new words. So here are new words that you're learning, more words, and then you jump straight into lesson 3. And then here's that warm-up sheet. So this is you're going to read right before you read the story to help introduce some new vocabulary or remind students of words taught in previous lessons. So that's mostly just one page. It doesn't typically have a back. So this section right here, these are little word flipper books. So you cut all of these out, and then these are staple marks. So you just stack them all. Once you cut out these squares, you stack them all here, and then you cut this out, and you have these little word books. So you have thankfully, bashfully, carefully, dreadfully, and you keep on going. So those are actually really fun for the kiddos, but they do take time to cut out and do. But so what I did when I did the earlier lessons with my kiddos, if you know you have kids coming up next using this, I would recommend saving these to save yourself time. So I just saved them in a little container, and now I have them for my next child. And as we go through level 4 with my second grader, I'll be saving these for when my youngest is ready for it. So now let's take a look at the volume 1. So there are 2 volumes of the readers. So volume 1, we'll open that up, and this, brand new again, just got this curriculum. So you have the contents, and this version I actually ended up getting the color because the other ones were actually borrowed. Nice glossy pages, and then here you go. So then the reading starts. Now this is starting to look more and more kind of like how those early chapter books are looking, based on like level 1, where they just have like one line of text all the way across. So it's really cool just to look at the different readers and see the progression that students have gone through. And then they just read the story. Depending on where your child's at, you could break this up into several different, a couple different sessions, and then it ends with the end, and then it moves on to the next story. So lots of great illustrations in here. Really fun to read for my kiddos. And just because the best thing about these books is that they only introduce words and sounds that your student knows. So they're not going to come up and see some crazy word that they don't know how to stop and decode, or at least should know by a leap word or sight word. So that just gives so much confidence to my kiddos. Overall, I am a big fan of All About Reading. I used other programs in the past, and I had reluctant readers, and this made my reluctant reader a excited reader. I don't know what it was. I'm not an expert at teaching reading, but All About Reading helped me get my kid interested. So if you're in a slump and trying to figure out what program might work for you, I definitely recommend giving All About Reading a try. I did want to also mention that if you're not sure which level that your child should be at, I will link below to the free placement test that All About Reading has on their website, so you can look it over and figure out which level would be the right place to start your child. Are you as excited about the new Letters app as I am, or would you still prefer to stay the more tactile approach? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to get more homeschool content just like this, and I will see you next time.